In the year of 1980X, a team of 6 developers worked on a passion project. While sales were not great, the developers wanted a second try, but they could only work on this project on their spare time. But the team was determined to make their dream a reality. Mega Man 2 is one of the most beloved games not only within the Mega Man franchise but in all of gaming. For many years, this game was the face of the franchise. Mega Man 2 has been referenced in crossovers, in comics, music, and even within other Mega Man games. For the longest time, Mega Man 2 was also the best-selling Mega Man game, an achievement that now belongs to Mega Man 11. Without any doubts, Mega Man 2 is the most iconic entry in the series. But how does the game hold up in today's age? Surprisingly, really well. This game takes the best part of the previous entry and refines those ideas to create an experience that is so addictive. Out of all Mega Man games on the NES, this is one of the most replayable ones. Almost every level is paced perfectly, introducing fun mechanics without overstaying their welcome. This is a game that always clicks with me whenever I replay it, and the most shocking part is that Mega Man 2 almost didn't come out at all. When Mega Man 1 was released, the higher-ups at Capcom were not optimistic about how profitable the game would be.
After we got the game done, we took it over to sales. And we said, look, we got the game done, this is what it's like. And they said, there's no way this will sell.
Official sales have never been made public, and some conflicting statements have been made by multiple sources. In the Icons interview that is present in the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, it was said that the game was popular enough in Japan so that Capcom seemed worth it of bringing the game to the US, where the game became, as the interview puts it, a sleeper hit, despite its controversial cover. However, recently Akira Kitamura, the creator of Mega Man, stated on his Twitter account that in fact Mega Man 1 sold really poorly and the plan was to end the series right there. But Kitamura really wanted to make another Mega Man game, as he saw potential in the ideas laid out by Mega Man 1. However, at the time, Kitamura was already working on the video game adaptation of the 1988 movie Willow, which was a high priority project for Capcom at the time. According to Kitamura, the Willow game was actually put on hold for a couple of months because the team was already working on Mega Man 1. So after a low sales of Mega Man 1, Capcom was on edge with Kitamura, and the higher-ups wanted him to focus on Willow. This put Kitamura in a really complicated position, because if Kitamura wanted to make Mega Man 2, his team would have to develop the game in under 3 months to meet the quota for the holiday season. The task seemed impossible. However, Kitamura really wanted to make a sequel, so on his own initiative and against all odds, Kitamura started working on Mega Man 2. But he knew that he needed as much help as possible, so he approached Keiji Inafune to work on Mega Man once again. Inafune was shocked when he heard that Kitamura was working on Mega Man 2. He knew that this was not a corporate decision, but the team coming back together one more time to make a game they were passionate about. And with such a tight schedule, the team had to accommodate to the laborious challenge at hand. The reality was that time was against them. With less than 3 months of development and the need to finish higher priority projects, the team had to make sacrifices if they wanted to make Mega Man 2 a reality. As such, the team had to work on the game on their own free time. However, this was not mandated by the higher-ups at Capcom. This was a decision that everyone on the team made on their own. And while the work sessions were long and exhausting, Inafune recalled this period of time as his best time working at Capcom. as it was time that everyone on the team spent working towards a goal. But time was not the only limitation that surrounded the development of Mega Man 2. There were also hardware limitations that the team had to consider. Even back in Mega Man 1, there were many ideas that the team wanted to implement into the game, but due to memory limitations, they had to be scrapped. However, now that Mega Man 2 is in production, this was a perfect opportunity to go back to those ideas and bring them back to life.
When we made the first Mega Man, you're always limited by memory, how much space you have on the cartridges, and we had tons of characters that we had created that we all wanted to fit in the first game that we couldn't. So all the characters that were left over, we decided to put in number 2.
Kitamura also wanted to make Mega Man fans feel like their voices matter. After the release of Mega Man 1, one of the common criticisms was how difficult some sections of the game were. So for the sequel, the team wanted to implement new mechanics that will assist the player in hard sections of the game. However, Kitamura wanted to address one particular issue of Mega Man 1, and it's that players wouldn't know if the game was fun until they play it. To tackle this problem, Kitamura came up with a marketing plan that consisted of a contest where players could submit their own design for a Robot Master, and the best designs would be used in the final game. The goal of this contest was to create more engagement with younger players, but also keep pushing the word of mouth that made the first game popular.
From 2, we had children participating in the R&D of the game, so you really have a game kind of created by children for children. You have that child touch, actually.
In Japan, Mega Man 2 is called Rockman 2 Willy no Nasu, or The Mystery of Dr. Wily in English. The subtitle is only present in the Japanese version of the game, and according to Kitamura, this subtitle was invented to let participants of the contest know about the existence of Dr. Wily. For the marketing stunt to work, players had to be interested in the game. As such, Kitamura put more emphasis on the story and characters so that players will care. The Robot Master contest is such a huge deal because it was one of the earliest times in video game history where developers worked alongside fans to bring content to their games. And the publicity stunt was a success, as 8,370 entries were received. However, this contest also presented a logistical problem. The team only had less than 3 months to develop the game. If they waited until the contest was over to start developing the levels, the game would definitely not come out on time. However, Kitamura accounted for this by starting developing levels around generic themes like Forest and Sky, and once the contest was over, the team picked Robot Masters that closely aligned with the selected themes, then refined those designs for the final game. The Robot Master contest would later become a tradition for the series, as later games will have their own contest. As a matter of fact, this contest is still being made up to this day, as the recently announced Mega Man 12 also had its own contest. By the end of the development cycle of Mega Man 2, the team was making sure that this chance would not go to waste. Despite all the adversities, the team felt that they gave their all for this game. And on December 24, 1988, Mega Man 2 will release on a Nintendo Famicom, and this game was a huge success. It was praised by the critics, beloved by the players, and it sold like hotcakes. Kitamura made the impossible possible, but Mega Man 2 had something to prove. Games made with passion and love are the ones that will leave their mark in history. From the very first minute, Mega Man 2 proves how much it improved upon its prequel by having an intro sequence that goes over the plot of the game. Now, the plot itself is nothing to write home about, however the presentation is so well done. The cinematography is simple. It is a background shot of a city, with a tall building taking the center stage, with some text explaining what is going on. Then the camera slowly moves up alongside the music rising up the momentum, which ends with a shot of Mega Man standing on top of the building while the main theme of the game plays in the background. This is an intro that makes you excited in the game before starting to play, and the intro itself is so iconic. It has been referenced in many other forms of media. But the intro was not the only leap in presentation. Once you boot up the game, you are presented with a way cleaner stage selection screen. Compared to the one in Mega Man 1, This one just looks way better. Every Robot Master now has its own unique character portrait, and the sprite work for these portraits is great. These portraits allow for each Robot Master to showcase their unique design with greater detail, and the fact that every single Robot Master in this game has a distinctive look from one another is exciting. It's quite incredible how much the game has evolved from its previous entry, and we haven't even started playing yet. Mega Man 2 is not a sequel that changes the way the game is played. In structure, it remains pretty much the same as Mega Man 1. You start the game by selecting a stage where you have to jump over obstacles, kill enemies, and defeat a boss at the end. While the formula remained the same, what Mega Man 2 did was to increase the scale of the game and take elements that worked from the first game and improve upon them. Regarding scaling, this can be seen from the very beginning too. In Mega Man 1, there were only 6 Robot Master stages. However, starting in Mega Man 2, now there are 8 Robot Master stages, a tradition that every game moving forward adopted. The decision to add 2 new extra stages is great, because it offers way more options for the player, but it also extends the duration of the game. Mega Man 1 is a really short game. If you know what you're doing, your average playthrough will last on average 1 to 2 hours. Adding a few couple of stages does not make the game super long. If anything, Mega Man 2 is also a really short game that will last you on average 1 to 2 hours as well. However, extra stages that are well designed are always great, and in the case of Mega Man 2, every Robot Master stage is really good. This list of Robot Master stages are some of the most iconic ones in the series, and for a good reason. These are fun levels that are well designed. But most importantly, these levels feel way more elaborated than any level in Mega Man 1. In that game, levels have unique gimmicks and enemies, but for the most part, the levels play the same even if the layout and enemy placement is different. That is a feeling that is now present in Mega Man 2. Each level has rules that must be learned and mastered to beat the levels. One example of this is Bowman Stage, where most of the stage takes place underwater, where Mega Man feels way more floaty, being able to jump higher. This makes for an interesting gimmick because there are a lot of instant kill spikes around this level, so part of the challenge is to make a precise jump to avoid these spikes. And because Mega Man feels different throughout most of the stage, it forces the player to approach these challenges with a different mindset. Another example is Flashman Stage, which is one of the most unique levels in the game. It is a relatively short one, however it is also one of the most complex in the game, as the layout of the stage is like a maze, where the player can take multiple paths. Some paths allow the player to avoid dangerous enemies, other paths lead to items, and other paths lead to platforming challenges. This level feels like a puzzle with no wrong answer. If the player thinks creatively and has the skill to put their strategy to action, they can overcome all the challenges that this level provides. And because of its open-ended nature, this level can be approached in so many different ways. And just like these two levels, there is something in every Robot Master level that changes how you play the game. The conveyor belts in Metal Man Stage, the insta-kill lasers in Quick Man Stage, the multiple types of enemies in Woodman Stage, the patient and precision trials in Airman Stage, the climbing challenges in Crashman Stage, and the disappearing blocks in Hitman Stage. And yes, some of these elements are also present in Mega Man 1, but Mega Man 2 takes the best of these ideas and improves upon them. If you recall from my Mega Man 1 video, I mentioned the 4 principles that Kitamura applied for half of the level design for that game, which were the following ones. Single, weak little enemies will appear in waves of 3 or 4 individuals, and to the extent possible, mixing up multiple enemies will be avoided. All enemies will use the same type of attacks. Differences in terrain and enemy placement are used to adjust the difficulty of a given level section, and the difficulty of each enemy in the wave will gradually rise, but the last enemy will be the easiest one to take out. This design philosophy is applied throughout all Mega Man 2, and it makes for level design that is almost rhythmical. Woodman Stage is a perfect example of this. When you start a level, you see a wave of bad enemies in a long corridor. Then you go down a ladder, you will see the second wave in a trickier layout, and then later you will see the third wave in a smaller room, Now the wave has less bats and the layout makes it easier to kill them. And this same pattern can be seen with other types of enemies in the level. It is done with the rabbits, it is done with the fire dogs, it is done with the monkeys and birds, and it's even done with the ostriches that only show up in the last screen of the level. This design just flows so well because you know that every pattern in the game goes in 3 or 4 waves, with each wave scaling naturally in difficulty. It showcases progress indirectly. The game never addresses how much you have advanced through the level. Instead, this design pattern is like an invisible voice that tells the player how far they have gotten. And if you're aware of these principles, it is really hard not to see them. It is a small and subtle detail, but it makes for such a fun game. But level design is not the only improvement in the levels. The levels themselves look way better than the previous game. For an NES game, Mega Man 2 looks really good. Now, this game reuses a lot of art from the previous game. Mega Man's sprite is pretty much the same. However, the art style is one of the best ones from the NES era. The fact that many characters are robots allowed this art style to get away with some of the limitations of smaller sprites, while also giving room to the developers to experiment with more unconventional body shapes. And in the case of Mega Man 2, the developers did not slack on creative designs. Every Robot Master has so many details and some of them even have different body shapes, but even smaller enemies were given so much attention. Every animal-shaped robot has such a distinctive sprite work from one another. But what Mega Man 2 does the best in terms of visuals is backgrounds. Almost every background in the game is so immersive. The waterfalls in Bubble Man stage, the forest in Woodman stage, the space in Crashman stage. This background makes these stages look like real places while also providing a distinct setting for every level. Back in Mega Man 1, most stage backgrounds were just one plain color with some occasional decorations, but Mega Man 2 just gives way more personality to its levels. Well, most of them. There are still levels that have simpler backgrounds, but it is undeniable how much of an improvement the visuals are for this game. And while the game is fun and looks great, what does it feel like to play Mega Man 2? Mega Man 2 controls pretty much the same as the previous game. Mega Man still moves with the D-pad. You can shoot with the A button and jump with the B button. However, there have been a few tweaks to the gameplay. For starters, Mega Man does not feel slippery anymore, and the fall speed is not as fast. It makes it easier to control the character, especially in stages like Earthman where precise platforming is the main challenge. Knockback doesn't feel as punishing either. I think this was accomplished by better level design where certain sections actually account for the player getting knocked back by enemies. However, Mega Man 2 changes the way the game is played by adding 3 new items called Item 1, 2, and 3. These items are unlocked after completing Hitman, Earthman, and Flashman stages, and their purpose is to replace the magnet beam from the previous game. These items do not deal damage. Instead, they serve as movement tools for Mega Man. Item 1 creates platforms that rise up for a short period of time. Item 2 creates a hoverboard that moves horizontally. And Item 3 creates a bouncy platform that stops when it collides with a wall, and it also rises up for a short period of time. As mentioned earlier, these items were added to make the game easier. However, they are relatively weaker than the magnet beam because they are not as spammable, but they compensate for utility and easier access. Alongside the transport items, energy tanks were added. These are consumable items that Mega Man can store, and when used, they will restore your health bar. According to Inafune, Kitamura was not a huge fan of energy tanks as he believed that they were unnecessary, so they were heavily nerfed by the fact that there's only a limited amount of them throughout the game, and if you get a game over, you lose access to all the energy tanks that you have collected up to that point. Energy tanks can be extremely helpful against tricky bosses, so it's always a good idea to collect them, which adds another layer of complexity in the level design, as now levels had to add optional pets for the player to collect items. In some levels, energy tanks are placed as rewards for optional challenges. Another huge change in Mega Man 2 is its special weapon roster, and let me address the elephant in the room. Mega Man 2 is home for one of the best weapons in all of gaming history, the Metal Blade. This is a special weapon that you unlock by beating Metal Man, and it is really strong. As you might recall, one of Mega Man's biggest limitations is the fact that its default weapon can only shoot enemies horizontally. There is no way to change the direction of the default weapon. Metal Blades not only can be thrown horizontally, it can also be thrown vertically and diagonally. This weapon can be thrown in all 8 directions. That fact on its own is crazy because it makes the weapon extremely versatile and useful. But the Metal Blade can do way more than that. The Metal Blade is extremely spammable. You can shoot up to 3 Metal Blades at a time. They come up extremely quickly, and their energy consumption is extremely low. 4 Metal Blades consume only 1 energy, which means that it will take 112 Metal Blades to fully deplete the energy bar. But you wanna know what's the funniest part? You can avoid depleting the energy bar altogether, as there's a glitch that allows you to reset the counter for the energy consumption. If you shoot 3 Metal Blades, then you switch to another weapon, then switch back to the Metal Blade, and then shoot 1 more Metal Blade, your energy won't be depleted because the counter was resetted. This weapon goes against all the rules of the game, but somehow, there's still more to the Metal Blade. The Metal Blade is the weakness of 6 bosses, 4 of them being Flashman, Woodman, Bubbleman, and Metal Man himself. Yes, Metal Man is weak against his own special weapon. And the funniest part is that in normal mode, you can beat Metal Man with just 1 hit from the Metal Blade. However, the only way to reproduce this scenario in game was in the boss rush near the end. According to Kitamura, Metal Man's weakness against the Metal Blade was supposed to be a secret, as back in the day, it was hard for games to be featured in gaming magazines if they did not have hidden tricks like this. Needless to say, Metal Blade breaks the game. It's such a ridiculously overpowered weapon, and it's not necessarily hard to get. Metal Man's stage is probably the easiest one in the game. Even his boss fight is really easy as he takes a lot of damage from the default weapon. There is no reason not to go for Metal Blades right from the start, but as powerful as the Metal Blade is, I don't think it makes Mega Man 2 worse. It is true that it is unbalanced and it makes the default weapon worse, but the Metal Blade is not an automatic win button. There are still many enemies and bosses that are immune to the Metal Blade. And if there's something to praise about Mega Man 2, is that the other special weapons are also really good. Some of them are quite broken, not as broken as the Metal Blade per se, but they're still really strong. The lift shield is great for hordes of enemies or tight spaces with tons of respawning enemies. The earth shooter is great for destroying the mech enemies, and the flash stopper makes the laser section in Quickman stage way easier. Yes, some weapons still suffer from being extremely situational, but at least there are no completely useless weapons. They all have a purpose, and with enough experimentation, you can make good use of any of these weapons. And sometimes you can do unintended stuff like this. This is a really cool glitch that can be used in multiple sections of the game. However, it can also lead to softlocks if not done properly. Speaking of glitches, during the playthrough I recorded for this video, something really strange happened during Earthman boss fight, as I defeated the boss at the same time I was getting hit by an attack that would have made me lose the fight. My health bar was depleted, and the death animation was looping endlessly while the victory animation played out. However, the game counted it as if I beat the level. Kinda funny glitch to come across. Before I praise how well all Robot Master stages were designed, however, Mega Man 2 Endgame is not as polished. Once you beat all 8 Robot Master levels, you will go through 6 Wily Castle stages. The first 3 Wily stages are not that bad. They offer a fair challenge that puts the player's knowledge to the test. There are even sections that require the use of the 3 items in strategic ways. These levels are definitely harder than the Robot Master stages, but they felt doable. However, Wily Stage 4 is my least favorite level in the game. First of all, it's a rather long level, with many screens designed around moving platforms that you have to strategically jump around while avoiding enemies. With smart usage of the 3 items, you can get through these screens without problem, but it still drags for a little too long. However, the ending section is where I have the most issues with. First, you have to deal with some really annoying mech enemies, which can drain your health bar quite a bit, but then you face the boss, which is extremely unfair. You see, this boss consists of 5 moving traps attached to walls throughout the room. The goal is to destroy all 5 traps. Simple, right? Well, the issue is that you can only hit these traps with the crash bombs, and there are also walls that protect some of the traps, which can only be destroyed with the crash bombs too. So the idea here is to strategically use crash bombs to destroy all walls and traps before the traps kill you, or worse yet, you run out of weapon energy for the crash bombs. The big issue is that this room is designed in such a way that you cannot waste your usage of crash bomb, as this weapon consumes a lot of weapon energy. You need to be careful where you aim your shots and which walls you have to destroy, because destroying all walls while making the room easier to navigate actually wastes your energy ammo and makes it so that you won't be able to destroy all traps. Now, once you know all of this, the boss itself is not that bad. Actually, the idea is neat, and using another glitch, you can actually avoid getting damaged by the boss. The boss glitch was obviously removed in Mega Man 2. However, the way it was removed is quite funny because all they did was remove the pause button. Your only way to pause the game now is by opening the weapon menu, which pauses the invincibility timer. However, the weapon menu makes Mega Man invincible for a couple of frames. So what you can do to avoid damage is opening and closing the weapon menu repeatedly when the traps shoot lasers at you. The timing can be quite tricky, and it is not as easy to pull off as the boss glitch from the previous game, but it is quite consistent, and it's probably the easiest way to go around this boss. However, my biggest issue with this boss is how punishing it is. If you lose against this boss, you don't get your weapon energy back. You need to go back and farm enemies to recharge the crash bombs, which is almost impossible in this level, because the layout makes it so that screens with respawning enemies have tons of instant kill obstacles, or normal screens have enemies that are hard to kill. And if you decide to recharge your special weapons by getting a game over, you have to do the entire stage from the beginning. This level has a lot going against it. It doesn't seem like the level was as well thought out as the rest of the game. And while the following levels are not as hard nor long as this one, they are not that great either. Wily Stage 5 is just the boss rush and the first fight against Dr. Wily, while Wily Stage 6 is a long hallway where you just walk forward without stopping and then you face the final boss, which can only be hit by the bubble lid. And if you run out of energy weapon for the bubble lid, there are no enemies at all to restore your weapon energy. So your only option is to get a game over and restart the stage. These odd design decisions feel like padding, the same type of padding that I criticized in Mega Man 1, and it's weird that it only happens right at the end of the game. However, if there is something I can praise the Wily stages for, it's the Wily Stage 1 song. This is probably the most iconic song in the series. I would go as far as to say that this is the unofficial main theme of the series, and that is because this song is really good. Music is an extremely crucial aspect of the Mega Man series. Even the identity of Mega Man as a character comes from music.
Actually, it's not a rock like a stone or a pebble. That was not where the name Rockman comes from. It comes from rock and roll. There's also another character named Roll. When I first designed the character, I had rock and roll in mind. That was the back image I was going off of when I designed a lot of the artwork. For me, Rockman, or Mega Man, has always been a game that's been designed with music in mind. Music's always been a very important part of the series.
For a series where music is such a big deal, the soundtrack is that one thing that is consistently good throughout all entries. And in the case of Mega Man 2, the soundtrack was composed by a man called Takashi Tateeshi. This is a composer that has worked on many other games, like Hideo Kojima's Police Nuts, the first Suikoden game, and the Tokimeki Memorial series. But before he worked on all of those games, he first worked on Mega Man 2. In an interview conducted for the MagFest 2019, Tateishi went over the process behind the music in Mega Man 2. Tateishi explained that his process for creating music for the game involved creating bombastic melodies using different layers and combining them into a song while also working around the limitations of the NES. For instance, the NES was not very capable of producing bass sounds, so to replicate these sounds, Tateishi used all 3 sound channels of the NES. Funnily enough, at first, Kitamura was not pleased with Tateishi's early drafts of her songs. Kitamura thought that these songs were too cutesy for Mega Man. As such, they both went through a rewriting process in which Kitamura told Tateishi not to focus solely on melodies, instead focus on the fact that these songs were gonna be used in a game, so that the songs have to match the movement speed of the game. After going through multiple revisions, Tateishi came up with a song for Wily Stage 1, which Kitamura liked so much that he wanted more songs like that one. The presentation, the graphics, the gameplay, the level design, and the music, everything in this experience showcases the passion and love that the developers had for this game, and for that reason, Mega Man 2 is one of the most beloved games in history. Mega Man 2 is the most famous entry in the series. It has been referenced many and many times in so many forms of media, but I would like to focus on my favorite one. Many Japanese artists have taken inspiration from the music in Mega Man 2. The most notable one is the rendition of Wily Stage 1 by Jam Project, which is Tateishi's favorite rendition of the song. However, my favorite rendition of Wily Stage 1 comes from Team Chachi and their song Rocket Queen. This is a single that remixes Wily Stage 1 theme with the Team Chachi song Rock Away. This song was released in 2019 and was part of the Rock Band Live 2020 event. The song on its own is great. It is really catchy, the vocals are emotional, and the melody is upbeating. But this song goes above and beyond to celebrate Mega Man. You see, alongside the song, a web browser game was produced called Rockman 20XX Tatakae Team Chachi. This is a really short game that features gameplay similar to the classic Mega Man games. The game consists of one long auto-scroller level with a boss fight at the end. And while it is a really small game, I love it. This is a love letter to Mega Man. From the intro of the game as a replica of the intro of Mega Man 2, to the storyline of the game that revolves around the 4 members of the group, Yusuke, Honoka, Nao, and Harina, as during one of the performances, an AI of Dr. Wily appears and takes control of Mega Man, who is an old man now. So, an AI of Dr. Light appears to ask Team Chachi for help. It's a really simple plot, but everything about it is amazing because the developers made an effort to create a brand new sprites for all Mega Man, Roll, and Proto Man, while also making custom sprites for all members of Team Chachi. And the game itself is just one big reference to Mega Man 2. Not only are all enemies in the game variations of enemies that originally appear in Mega Man 2, but then you see that the AI of Dr. Wily brought back all Robot Masters from that game, and they are old too. So now Team Chachi revisits all levels from Mega Man 2 and faces all Robot Masters again, while Rocket Queen sounds in the background. And during the booming parts of the song, this orchestra shows up to hype everything up. All of this is amazing, it feels like a playable music video. The amount of work and effort that was put into making all custom sprites for a free browser game, it is incredible. And the final section where Team Chachi faces off against the Mega Man mech controlled by Dr. Wily, this part is just epic, as the song starts hitting so hard, and then by the end a cutscene plays out with all the members of the band shooting a huge rocket at the mech. Oh my god, this brought tears to my eyes. It's so beautiful and amazing. The developers behind this project were passionate about Mega Man, and it shows. And while this project was just a cross-promotion between Team Chachi and the Mega Man series, the developers still went above and beyond to produce something worth talking about. And this kind of passion project is a reflection of what those 6 developers from Capcom felt like when making Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 is a game that defied fate. A game that accomplished an almost impossible task. Against all odds, the game was finished, and it was such a good game. A game born from a team that gave their all, and it's a game that is still celebrated up to this day. I love Mega Man 2. Although it is not a perfect game, this is a game that whenever I come back to it, there has always been something new to love about it. It's a game that is timeless, that years from now, people will still praise it. And this game proved the world that passion is the most powerful trait that a game developer can have. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. Write down a comment about your favorite part of the video or your favorite Mega Man game or anything that you would like to share. I'm looking forward to reading your comments. And if you'd like to see more content like this, consider subscribing. That supports the channel and it also motivates me to keep making more content. Thanks for making it this far, and until next time.